So I'm a front-end dev at Jira. I've been doing HTML, CSS for a long time. I've styled a lot of forms. I actually love forms and I love CSS. But I do. I love forms. I've been doing forms in Jira for like too long. But file inputs shit me to tears. So we have a user interface library called Howie, sort of like Bootstrap, I guess, would be the closest thing. And we've taken it up until June last year. We didn't really touch file inputs. We just let browsers to style them as they were. But then we rolled out our PDL, like visual language, visual design. And we styled everything except for file inputs, which we basically gave just enough styles on to make them sort of line up with labels and baselines align. Yeah, they looked alright. So it's pretty minimalistic stuff, nothing really out there. So on Chrome, pretty standard. So this is the normal AUI file and the button. AUI text field and the button. Safari, Firefox, blah blah blah, IE8. They look great. So this screenshot I took. So we spin up VMs by a little thing called VMAC that came out on our ship-it days, and spins it up on Amazon Cloud or EC2 instances. IE11, they don't support IE11 under Windows 8 or Windows Server 2012, so you have to run it under Windows Server 2008. Highlighting a point that in IE, the OS style, which I remember if you used XP, where you had the old XP Aqua theme or whatever, and the big 2000 theme, which everyone always used to turn back to, that's what would dictate the style of your buttons. So this is a clear indication that, of what happens, because it actually looks quite nice under Windows 8, but not on the server. Who's going to use IE11 on the server? So visual problems I have with this, fields look disabled in IE. IE11 looks broken under certain OS, and IE the button style dictates, the OS dictates the button style. So if we just took the simple route of trying to style this, background, give it a height, put a border radius, box shadow, yeah, not rocket science stuff. Chrome, it's not broken, got a border, whatever. Chrome, Safari, yeah, it's okay. Whatever. Worse. Opera, nice, well done. IE8, wow. IE9, cool. IE10, IE11, it's not really fair because it's under the server, so it'll probably look all right. But we can't really do much more than that. That was pretty minimal. You wouldn't be able to do gradients because it would put it on you saw the background color, put it on the field bit, not the button. So you wouldn't be able to really keep it in sync. If you had like blue buttons or Twitter or something, or Bootstrap, whatever, you wouldn't be able to keep it in sync with the visual style of your site. Yeah. So I actually had this as CSS fails, and Sharky corrected me that it's not CSS, it's the browsers that fail this. So what do? Google a JavaScript solution. So we've set some requirements. So if we want to have a control, we want to audit, there's a lot of results on Google. We've got to sort of cull them down into ones that meet our requirements. So we want it to be accessible. And the last thing we support, out of the box, Jira supports 3 languages. We also have a translations team that provides, I don't know, crap load more. We want to allow good interaction. So we want to have styling states for hover, focus, disabled, valid, invalid. A lot of people use these on mobiles, better than Apple Pro, so we want it to be friendly. We want it to work with other plugins, so we don't want to, if someone's got an Ajax loading control, we don't want to stomp their events or not, fire events. Or we don't want to not tell their plugin that we've got a file that's been added to control. Maintainable is very important, and we want it to be customizable. So if you want to have your own theme, or you want a mobile theme, or you've got some orange and grey website, you want it to be, reflect the branding. So the first, I classify this as the Big Bang because in Quirk's mode, he took a take that some guy did that was just a sort of a pure CSS solution, and he enhanced it with a bit of JavaScript, and that was pretty cool. I went like this: you take the file input, so it's hard to see because it's quite small below. You make it transparent. You position the text field at the top of it. You put a background image on that text field, which is hard to see. These are the exact images and assets from the Quirk's mode site. Then you put an image after it, and you have some JavaScript that makes all the click events on the image or the text field trigger click events on the file input. So that basically immediately breaks our plugin-friendly sort of approach. Not to mention it's images, and it's 9-year-old code, so it still has this. So in IE, one thing I'll get into now because I have to explain this. You have 2 tab targets, so when you're tabbing through a text field only in IE, you tab in and you get the field area, and the second tab goes to the button. There's no change event, there's no focus blur event that gets applied in any of that. It's just fake IE stuff. So yeah, you sort of get that two tab target. So in that example, you would have tabbed to the field. You're not going to go to the text field. You go to the actual white area of the file input. Second tab will be the button, which you can't see either of these. Third one will go to the text field. And if they put a tab index, the fourth one will be on the image. But yeah, whatever. There was a groundbreaking discovery because the fact of making the input transparent created a host of other solutions. So these are just some of the good ones. And if you Google it, there are a lot of answers, right? So did they meet the requirements? So basically, you can categorize them into two groups. Some that use images, like that one, to sort of represent, to style it, and one that uses a combination of spans, buttons, labels, and links. Some of them are wrapping the entire file input in a link, just so you'd obviously get a big mouse. I didn't understand it. All styled with CSS, so that was not too bad. The images ones, I'll explain those. So you have one image for the default state, you have another 6 for your various other states. 7, yeah. Okay, retina, 14. 3 breakpoints, maybe mobile, tablet, desktop. 3, 42. 3 languages, yeah. And you have to recreate them if your visual style changes. Not much fun, or someone wants to browse Word to say, choose file in French, you have to go and change all the image. And you could cut the number of images down if you wanted to sprite them, but even then you're still going to have one big sprite with all your retina images and one big sprite with all your, it'd be English, French, German, or whatever. So it would get maintainable, and no one wants to download those on a mobile connection. Styling elements gets pretty close, but basically the attention to detail is not really there in any of the ones I looked at. They still don't work out the tab stop. Firing events wasn't getting picked up by plugins. None of them really cared about IE to N. And so they just had static strings inside their JavaScript files. Some of them, if you get the file, when you use the JavaScript, you get the file API and it gives you the path in WebKit and that, but you get the C:, take path. I don't know if you've ever seen it. You actually see it sometimes in inputs. None really worried about tab order or accessibility to any real extent. And deselecting files. So if you choose a file, in Firefox, Opera, and iOS, you can't actually say, actually, I don't want to upload that photo myself. So if you've gone down a big form and you've entered all your information, and you've chosen the wrong picture, or you don't want to upload a file at all, you have to reload the page and go through the whole form again. In Chrome and Safari, I don't know if you know this, but if you go to a file input, you choose a file, and you go to the file input again and hit cancel, it actually blanks the file out. It doesn't just dismiss the dialog, it sort of deselects the previous one. IE allows you to hit delete only when you're in that first white fieldy area of the first tab stop, I call it, of the input, but you can't do that if you're on the button bit. So XKCD, I have no names in this, no images or anything, but just this one, because it was applicable. Good, okay. So, of course I went and built another one. Fancy file input. So this is Chrome, Windows. There's no anti-aliasing in the buttons, it's great. Firefox, blah blah, consistent theme. It's really hard to see, but the gradients are all matched the buttons. It's just a bit too faded out. So why is it better? So I'll take a look under the hood. So take a file input, wrap in a label. Labels can actually go, if you wrap in a div, you'd never be able to put that div in a span, so it sort of limits your implementations. And a label makes sense. You make it transparent. This is sounding very familiar. And we style it like a field, which is sort of the bottom. So we actually style the label to look like the white field area. We put a data attribute on the label. Then we create a pseudo element, and we reference the data attribute text on that label, and we make a browse button using the before, and we load it over on the right-hand side of the controller. We add a bit of JavaScript for our interactions, so we want it to respond to change events, and because we can't use any kind of adjacent, can't use a plus selector. Brain's gone blank. So you can't use any way to bubble up to the parent when any of the focus are active or any of the states change. So we add a bit of JavaScript that basically does that. We emit a whole heap of namespace events if you want to plug into it with your Ajax file uploads. And we add some key binders for delete and backspace that allows you to know where you are on the field to delete the value across all your browsers. So this actually is IE8, 9, 10, 11, Safari, like basically everything IE8. Windows Mobile, which doesn't actually support file inputs yet, but they work theme-wise. You can't interact with them because they don't support, like where iOS was in pre-iOS 6. So I'll explain how I met the requirements. So the original input is not touched except for the events that get added, but we're not, routing click events to it or anything. So any other plugins you've got that touch it, that's all fine. No additional elements. It's just basically CSS, all interactions. So the actual file input is, because it's transparent, it's sitting on top of the label, so everything else is sort of below. So whenever you click, it sort of looks like you're clicking on the label, but you're actually clicking on this floating invisible element. I/N, because it's all data attributes, you load that markup from your server, and you load the page, so I/N is taken care of. There's actually a string for the button text, and if you have multiple files, I'll show that later, it's quite easier. Every state, there's those ones. If you can think of another state that it's missing, let me know. It's very trivial to add. No pixelation. Want icons, you can do that. Pluggable. All the namespace events. Maintainable, so no images. It's got an interest with QNet binhtaptap. It's got grunt for the build process. Available by Bower asterisk. I tried to push it to Bower today. They don't allow Bitbucket URLs and GitHub by a little bit, so there's an open bug. So when that gets fixed, it'll be on Bower. If there's anything else, again, Twitter will raise an issue. So let's have a look at some of how it looks. So this is a big example page here. So this is a standard text input, style with OWI is our standard file input. So I'm just going to tab through. So you have some box shadows, there's a disable style. So you fancy single file, choose a file, let's grab one with a long name. CSS, we can ellipsify, use the text over for ellipsis, we have a delete button. Multiple files. So 3 files. That's interesting. I like. And disable one, you can do CSS holder for your cursors. Because the original file input itself is still in the same position and it's just transparent, when you have HTML5 validation, the positioning occurs exactly as it would if you had the file input there in the same, like without the style. And we have events for the validity of the field, so you can make it go nice and green. I don't know why that's on the right. I must have broken that today, sorry. Multi-file, same sort of thing. But you can see here I've even changed the string on the button just by changing that data attribute on the label. Because it's CSS and the I/N, you can just put a data attribute. So we have Japanese, Chinese, Thai, whatever you want. And we have the regex for the multi-file thing. So it's not always 3 files in a language. It might be file 3 selected or whatever it is. I got all these translated for all these different languages from people all around the world, so it's really easy to get things translated.